Hello, and welcome to Adapt or Perish, episode 22, Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But before we get to that, let's talk about our next episode. In 2 weeks, who are you going to call? You're going to call M. You're going to dial it. You're going to dial M for murder. What do you think of my Hitchcockian twist? On August 14th, we'll be discussing Alfred Hitchcock's Dial M for Murder, starring Grace Kelly, and the super 90s remake, A Perfect Murder, starring the Grace Kelly of the 90s, Viggo Mortensen. Also Gwyneth Paltrow and Michael Douglas. Twists and double crosses abounding. On to your West Wing update. There really isn't one. Ariel and I just got back from our honeymoon, so the Bartlett administration had to take a back seat to allow for gallivanting. The trip was a delight, and we even got to do some show-related stuff that you'll hear about at a later date. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adaptorperishcast@gmail.com or tweet at us using the AdaptCast hashtag. And with that, on with the show. Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Welcome to Adapt or Perish, a podcast about adaptation. My name is Jeremy Latour.
I'm Ariel Lipshaw, and we are here together on this sweet day
to bring you a cage match. 2 movies go in, 1 movie comes out.
Is that what we're doing?
Head-to-head combat.
Is that what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 movies though, is the thing.
But the third one doesn't count. The third one is but a dessert.
All right.
But a dessert in this buffet of all dessert dinner.
Right. So, you may ask, why are we making all of these dessert?
Why are we making all
metaphors?
Of these sweet dessert jokes?
Sweet dessert jokes. Because today we're doing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
By Roald Dahl?
Well, now I think we should just agree
Dahl.
to say Roald Dahl, because that's how I've always heard and said it pronounced.
I've always thought it was rolled.
Well, when we watched some of the special features, they were saying very distinctly Roald.
Roald Dahl.
Roald.
So Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl.
That's what we're saying.
Hooray.
I dig it.
So this is how pitiful we were watching this week's properties, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So both of us are trying to watch our figures a little bit. So we have no sweet things, nothing in the house, no sweets, no snacks, no desserts. And we got about 5 minutes into the first
5 seconds.
5 seconds. Well, the 1971 movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, begins with the most gorgeous
chocolate porn.
Chocolate opening montage of chocolate on conveyor belts. And we got literally 5 seconds in and I went, I forgot how hungry this movie always makes me. And literally the only thing we had in the house were these single serving chocolate covered pineapple little individual packs that you keep in the freezer that are only 80 calories a pack. So I had bought just to have something sweet in the house that's not terrible for you. So we were really pitifully just drooling over all of the candy and chocolate on the screen and eating these tiny little packs of chocolate covered pineapple, trying to make it last. It was really sad.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
In the 1971 Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory that we both grew up on, if you could have any one piece of candy from that movie, which would it be?
The grass.
The grass.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because
from the chocolate room.
From the chocolate room, because I imagine that what it is, because in the book he describes it as mint flavored. And what I imagine is that it has the taste and texture of those soft mint, the pillowy soft mint candies that you get sometimes at a restaurant. Sometimes they'll be, as you leave, the red
at a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, the red and white striped ones that I literally will buy a bag of and eat over the course
Not the round, really hard ones.
No, the soft, pillowy ones that are kind of look like marshmallows, but they're red and white striped, and they dissolve in your mouth.
They're hard, but they dissolve in your mouth.
Exactly. They're not hard candy. They're soft and pillowy, like stale marshmallows. That's the best way to describe them.
Right.
So I've always imagined them like that, and this is really sad. Those are my favorite candy.
I learned
have
very
an-
early that you have an interesting relationship with candy.
Yeah, I don't know if our listeners know this. I might have mentioned this. Like I have type 1 diabetes and have since I was 9. So my relationship with candy and food is a little bit fucked up. Like sweet and sugary things to me are medicine, and not to be actually enjoyed.
They're medicine to be taken at regular intervals in minor doses.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I was a fat kid for a long time. Candy is what makes me feel good. I self-medicate. I am an emotional eater.
You do.
How many times have you seen me be an emotional eater?
Like many. I don't know. I mean, my favorite time was we were driving in the car on the way home from Maine and we actually had a fight, like a pretty bad fight. And you just turned to me and you were like, do you have any more of those granola bars? And I was like, yes. And you're like, give me one.
You watched me eat it in like 2 bites.
Like angrily eat the granola bar as you were driving down the highway. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So what is your favorite candy or sweet from the chocolate factory?
The TV chocolate bar.
Just the regular chocolate bar, transmitted by TV?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it was such a big piece of chocolate.
Right?
Condensed. I feel like there is no richer piece of chocolate in the world than the television chocolate bar.
Right. You think the flavor actually would be improved?
Yes.
I think it would be molecules.
I think it would be incredibly intense. I think it would be the kind of chocolate bar where you have a bite and you go, I need to put this down and I will come back to it later.
Because of science.
Yes.
It's improved by science.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Should we go back a little bit and talk about the book by Roald Dahl?
Oh, do you want to do the show?
Yeah, no, I kind of want to do the show.
Let's
Are
do
you
the
cool
show.
with that?
Yeah,
Let's do
I'm cool
it.
with it.
Let's do it. So in 1964, a book was published by the Norwegian British author Roald Dahl called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Now, I will say, for me as a child, Roald Dahl was definitely my favorite author. Absolutely. Like, no question. And as an adult, I discovered his short stories for adults, which are also buck wild, and really enjoyed those. Then I found out some more things about Roald Dahl that made me a little unhappy.
It's basically impossible for us to do a podcast about a Roald Dahl book and not get into some of those things.
Yeah.
One related to the book, one not related to the book.
Right.
But as always, we'll get to it later.
Yeah. So as one who has a really hard time divorcing the art from the artist, I feel very weird talking about Roald Dahl as someone that I like and enjoy. But I loved his books as a child. I liked Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It wasn't my favorite. Matilda was absolutely my favorite. Also, The Witches was a great one.
The Witches scares the shit out of me.
Like you can't like I mentioned doing that book and movie, and you were like, no,
I can't watch
that. Hard line.
I can't watch that movie.
Yeah.
That movie is. Can I tell? And the scariest part is the fact that they have no toes.
Yeah.
I don't know why that gives me such extreme fear and anxiety.
I don't know why that is. Both of us have had one property that we had a hard no on. Mine was Game of Thrones. All of Game of Thrones. I said, no, I won't watch it. I hate it. It's too violent. I can't watch it. Yours was literally Roald Dahl's The Witches.
But that's because you've never experienced Game of Thrones and
I'm scared of it.
You're scared of it. I've experienced The Witches and I know that it terrifies me.
Well, that's fair, and I validate you. It is very scary.
Thank you.
But anyway, yeah, the Witches and Matilda were definitely my two favorites. I liked the BFG, okay. I like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, okay. Danny the Champion of the World. I'm just gonna go on listing Roald Dahl books.
I've read all of them. I have not read all of them.
Yeah.
I really stuck on a couple of them. Like the BFG was my favorite.
Yeah.
I reread the BFG. I've read the BFG more times than I've read all his other books combined. Oh, and also Roald Dahl's Revolting Rhymes.
I didn't have that.
I love that one, and that one leads into what we're talking about today because some of that is in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So our copy that we have of this book does not have a back of the book. It's like a weird bound edition and doesn't have anything on the back. So one of us, I don't know, do we want to do rock, paper, scissors? One of us is going to do our best to describe the plot of this book in under a minute.
I am happy to volunteer to do that.
Jeremy is going to do it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go.
Charlie Bucket is a kid. He's really poor. He has a family. He's got a mom and dad. He's got his 4 grandparents that live with him, and they're all really poor, and they're literally fucking starving to death. He also happens to live in the same town as the chocolate factory, the Wonka chocolate factory, owned and operated by Willy Wonka, who's super mysterious, and no one's ever seen him. and no one even understands who works there. No one comes in, and
No one ever goes out.
that's right.
That's not from the book, that's from the movie, but continue.
So Willy Wonka decides he's going to have a contest, and he's going to invite 5 people into his factory for a tour. And the way that he decides that he's going to do this is he's going to hide 5 golden tickets inside 5 random Wonka bars
All over the world.
all over the world.
Except they're all found by people in America.
They're all white. Everyone who finds one is white.
A white child.
Yep, every single one. That is neither here nor there.
A white English-speaking child.
Don't question it. 5 children find the 5 golden tickets. The 5th one is Charlie Bucket, our hero.
Mm-hmm.
His last name is Bucket, by the way.
Mr. Bucket. Buckets of fun.
Then they all go into the factory, and the rest of the book is them in the factory. And over the course of the rest of the book, every single one of the kids, save Charlie, meets a tragic, I'm saying end in quotes, because for all intents and purposes, they have death scenes. They don't die. We find out at the end that none of them are dead.
They receive a punishment related to their tragic flaw in a very Edward Gorey type of way.
Befitting their bullshit.
That's right. That's right. As do their parents.
All of them are bumped off.
Save
then-
Charlie.
And then at the end, we find out Willy Wonka, who is a crazy character, thought that this might happen. And the reason he was holding this contest is because he knows that he's getting older, he can't do this forever, and he needs to give the factory to someone who will run it the right way.
And that's a child.
A child, because an adult would run it the way they want to run it, but a child would run it the way he wants it run.
And that's the end of the book.
And there we go.
And they all lived happily ever
And
after.
Charlie and his whole family moved to the factory and they lived there. There's a whole bunch of stuff we left out.
There's also a sequel, which we're not going to talk about because it's bug fuck nuts.
All I know is that Vermicious Kinnid scare the shit out of me.
That's in the sequel.
We're going to put that aside.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that was an accurate synopsis of this book? And if you do, I have a hunch as to why.
I do indeed. What is your hunch?
Here's my hunch. This is a kid's book. It is very short.
Yes, it's quite simple.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
But not a lot of conflict in
There's
it.
not, you know what it is? There's only one plot. There's no subplot.
None.
There's only one character. We follow him and then the book is over. The book is quite short.
So who's the main character?
Charlie Bucket.
And the story goes through what?
His experience in
The
the
sto-
chocolate factory.
In the chocolate factory.
Yeah. And the book is
Therefore-
called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Mhm.
Very good.
Do you like this book?
Yeah, I do.
What do you like about it?
Reading it as an adult, it was amazing to me, all of the weird details that snuck in. Roald Dahl is a real weird person
Yep.
and has a very strange imagination. And I think one of the reasons that children really love his books is that he doesn't shy away from... He's not precious about anything. He doesn't shy away from, like, harming children.
Nope, not at all.
And I think that is refreshing. Like, he's not sweet and good and, like, everybody ends up happily. Like, his books always have a moral. Like, the good end happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
He does have a really strong, like, don't be a dick kind of philosophy.
Definitely.
Like, if you're a dick, you will pay for it.
And he has very strong feelings about what being a dick means, which unfortunately, as we now know from his personal life, doesn't extend to racism.
He's a bit of a bigot. He
Yeah.
engages in some light bigotry.
And anti-Semitism.
That's included.
Slightly heavier anti-Semitism than bigotry.
Anti-Semitism is bigotry.
That's fair.
Yeah, that
that's
was
fair.
some light bigotry.
Light bigotry, mild bigotry.
He was very accepting in who he was going to not be accepting towards.
But no, I like that he is not afraid to be weird. He's not afraid to be grotesque. And his characters are all really well drawn, really well defined. You can imagine them. And the book, frankly, goes deeper and darker than either of the movies were willing to go. Like, he really trusts his audience.
I'm making a face that shows that I disagree with that.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the 2005 movie goes darker than Roald Dahl goes, but we're going to get into why.
It goes darker, but in a different way. I'm thinking specifically of the fact that there's an entire chapter on how a child is starving to death.
Oh, yeah, no, that's super fucked up.
Yeah. And like how he takes it upon himself to conserve his energy. Like, it goes into great specifics of he doesn't have very much energy and he's thin like a skeleton, and he leaves earlier for school so that he can walk a little slower and save his energy, and he doesn't play at recess. Like, all of these extreme details about something that is realistic. Like, that's not the wacky magical stuff. That's sometimes people are very, very, very poor and don't have enough to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is a real thing that happens.
And he doesn't treat it like a joke.
No, it's not a joke. Definitely not.
But it is horrifying.
Yeah. Or like, I'm thinking of Matilda, for example, just to use one example. Like, I'm actually less familiar with the movie. That wasn't a childhood thing for me. The movie Matilda with Mara Wilson, I really was a fan of the book. But her father is a criminal. Like, it is explicitly clear. Not only is he's not wacky, he's not goofy, he's not redeemable. He is an abusive criminal, and he goes into detail about like the things that he does to cheat and steal and harm people. And it's a children's book. It's a children's book for 3rd to 5th graders, not like a YA high school book. And I just feel like Roald Dahl is very unusual that he doesn't shy away from that type of realism at all in his children's fantasy books.
And I think the reason why I'm okay with it with Dahl is that there's a very clear delineation between fantasy and reality for him.
Yeah.
Even though the stuff he's writing is sometimes very dark and very awful, it always feels like fantasy.
Right. There's always a moment when the protagonist steps from reality into fantasy.
Yes, that's true.
When Charlie enters the chocolate factory, when Matilda discovers she has powers, when I don't remember the little boy's name, but the little boy in The Witches sees the witches and realizes they're real and not a fairy tale. Mouse Boy.
Yeah. Isn't that his name, Mouse Boy?
Well, the book is in first person, so Luke, I think, is his name.
Oh, okay. Luke Mouse Boy.
When Sophie sees the BFG for the first time.
Yeah, totally.
Like, there's always this moment where the child realizes that there is something happening in the world beyond their experience up to that point.
Which, if anyone's listened to our episode about The Giver, one of the reasons why I love that book so much is because it's about growing up.
Yeah.
It's about learning things about the world.
Yeah.
And that's something that's inherent in every Roald Dahl book.
Yeah, totally.
Which is why I think they work so well as kids' books.
Totally. So did you enjoy reading this book as an adult?
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
I will say the thing that I enjoyed most about reading it, maybe this is appropriate for me, was the pictures.
Yeah, talk about that.
So I grew up on this book, and I also grew up on other Roald Dahl books. Like I said, the BFG was the one I read the most. And, people who are fans of Roald Dahl know Quentin Blake. Mm-hmm. Quentin Blake drew most of the illustrations for most Roald Dahl books. There's even an edition of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that Quentin Blake did the illustrations for.
Yes.
And we went into this, and I was kind of thinking, oh, yeah, it'll be nice to see those Quentin Blake illustrations again, because I didn't really think about it. Mm-hmm. And then I started reading the edition that we have, and the illustrations are not Quentin Blake. They're Joseph Schindelman. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, this is weird. Maybe I've never seen these before. And I opened up the book and turned to the first page, and immediately was just like, oh, shit, these are the illustrations I grew up on.
Oh, yeah, they took me back. Like, talk about grotesque as a word. Like, they're horrifying.
The one example I will give, I'll give 2 examples.
Yeah.
One is the way the grandparents are drawn. They are starving husks of human beings.
They're 1,000,000 years old.
And the second example I'll give is from the book we said we weren't going to talk about, which is Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. All I'll say is they get even older. They get like hundreds of years old, and it's the same illustrator. And that suddenly brought me back to what I had seen as a kid.
Yeah.
I even went back, because you took out an edition from the library that had the Quentin Blake illustrations.
Yeah, just to see what they look like.
I looked at them, didn't ring a bell at all.
Yeah, no, that definitely wasn't the copy. I don't think I even ever really owned this book as a child. Like, I definitely had it from the school library and the public library, but I don't think either were the Quentin Blake edition.
Yeah, I definitely never read that one.
Yeah, me neither. I think I may have read the original one where the Oompa Loompas were more problematic.
Oh, are we getting into the Oompa Loompas? Do you want to do some Oompa Loompa talk right now?
I think we should, because I think there's a little bit of an elephant in the room with Roald Dahl that we should maybe mention before we move on.
So I would like to address at least the first part of this, if I may.
Go for it.
I imagine, not all of our listeners, but I imagine a good amount of our listeners are familiar with websites like cracked.com with their lists of, here's 5 things you thought you liked from your childhood. Turns out you're super fucked up and a bad person.
Yeah.
One of them is always Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, this is literally the 7 most racist children's books you never knew were racist. This is number 1 on that list.
Now, if you were to walk down a street and you were to ask most people under the age of, I'm going to say 40.
Yeah.
This is a challenging question. What does an Oompa Loompa look like?
And I would say, why? Of course, it has orange skin.
Of course.
And green hair.
Mm-hmm.
And wears overalls. And is about 3 feet tall.
Right, exactly. That is what we would all describe.
Yes.
So, in the original edition of this book,
let it be clear, the first edition, not the second printing, literally the first edition.
the Oompa Loompas are 100%.
They're explicitly described as being from Central Africa, and if you look at the illustrations, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good, especially with the plot point that they have Willy Wonka has brought an entire tribe to his factory to work for him unpaid.
I'm literally like sitting here trying to defend a children's book by saying, well, they're not unpaid. They're getting fed in chocolate.
So chattel slaves were also fed and housed.
And I'm also recognizing
that is literally slavery.
And I am recognizing how horrible the thing I just said was.
Yes.
So you know what? Here's the deal.
Yeah.
I think other people have gone on at length about this topic.
We are in no position to do this.
We are here only to acknowledge.
Yes, and move on.
And move on. But before we move on, because I feel like you have another thing you want to say.
Yes.
We kind of shit on Roald Dahl a little bit, and I would say for things that are fair.
Yes, I think so.
I'm going to say one nice thing about Roald Dahl.
Please do.
He at least, when confronted with the truth of what he had done,
by the NAACP, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Recognized that it was bad and inappropriate what he had written, and he rewrote the characters of the Oompa Loompas to instead turn them from these very like minstrel characters to the dude, essentially.
Yeah, they're hippies.
It's a bunch of little 2 feet, the dudes running everywhere with long hair and beards and rosy cheeks. And they're no longer from Central Africa.
And
they are from
Lupaland. Yes, and he goes out of his way to say they have pink skin.
Mm-hmm, rosy pink skin.
Yeah.
And he does a very clear job, as clear as he can, without changing the entire story completely, that they love more than anything chocolate. Mm-hmm. So it's not that Willy Wonka said, come work for me, I'll pay you in chocolate. He said, would you like to get the thing you love more than anything?
Yeah.
And they basically go, yes, please. This is great. You are allowing us to live our best lives.
Right.
It reminds me of in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where Douglas Adams creates an animal that wants to be eaten.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
And it's okay because the animal wants to be eaten. And it comes to the table before it gets killed and says, oh, you probably want some of my rump. It's very good, sir.
It's exactly like that.
It doesn't make it not problematic, but I will say he accepted that he needed to change it, and he made it less problematic.
He responded to criticism and said, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get defensive. As far as we know, like he was willing to change it and did.
Yes. But I'm so sorry I interrupted because I know that there was just one other thing about Roald Dahl. Now that we're done saying nice things about Roald Dahl, there's one other thing you wanted to say.
Yeah. And I think as two Semitic individuals.
Oh, wait, hang on. Let me check. Yep, still Jewish.
Yep.
Yeah, go on.
Yep. As two Red Sea pedestrians, we are in a reasonable position to go a little bit deeper into this next topic before we move on. Roald Dahl was very anti-Semitic.
Yep.
And when confronted about his beliefs, my basic understanding is unlike when he changed things that were racist, he doubled down and stuck to his guns.
Stuck to his guns real hard.
Yeah. Although I will say, I don't see that reflected in his work.
No, but before you go on, I do just want to give everyone an example. Because we're saying this, but I want to give an example. And this is probably the example that goes around.
This is the quote.
This is a quote from 1983. There is a trait in the Jewish character that does provoke animosity. Maybe it's a kind of lack of generosity towards non-Jews. I mean, there is always a reason why anti-anything crops up anywhere. Even a stinker like Hitler didn't just pick on them for no reason. So.
Cool.
Cool.
Of the Jewish children everywhere who maybe liked to read and didn't love sports, and maybe, as their book report in 3rd grade brought in a paper bag full of all the books that Matilda read from the library and really identified with that child and maybe had big glasses like Matilda. I'm in tears. For all the young people that became Jewish adults that just had their hearts broken, I want to say, I'm with you. I hear you. I support you. The other person who feels that way is the actor Ben Schwartz from Parks and Rec.
John Ralphio from Parks and Rec.
I do recommend listening to his episode of the Dead Authors podcast, the late lamented Dead Authors podcast, where he, in character as Roald Dahl, is confronted with some anti-Semitic quotes that he did not know existed, and then had to deal with that information while still portraying the character Roald Dahl
in front of an audience. I will say quickly, I'm going to link to both the article that the quote is from and also to that episode.
It is my favorite moment of live performance, I think, of all time, because of how heartbroken he is and how he has to deal with it. It's like the last 5 or 6 minutes of that episode of that podcast.
It's really, really good.
So I am with you. I understand. I also love Matilda, and I'm very sorry.
But you've made a good point to me before, which is this, and I think we should end on this, and then we'll start talking about these adaptations.
Great.
Does this anti-Semitism, does this bigotry that clearly was a big part of him, ever really show up in the books?
I don't think so.
In an obvious way.
In no way, certainly in no way that I remember or picked up on as a child. I have not done a close reading of all of his books as an adult, but I don't think so.
Well, I will say, I don't hear any white supremacists using his books as evidence.
No, that is a low bar, but I think he does pass it.
Yes.
All right, let's move on.
I'm
this
sufficiently bummed out. Do you want to talk about chocolate again?
Yeah.
So I yelled into the microphone at the beginning of this episode that this was going to be a head-to-head cage match.
You did.
Here's how this episode is going to work. We have a list of characters and concepts from Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
We do.
And what we're going to do is we're going to go through them one by one, and we are going to stack the 1971 Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory up against the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Fantastic.
I'm just going to give a little bit of background on both.
Go ahead.
Just so we know, the colors that they're wearing and the weight of the fighter.
Great.
So in 1971, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was released. It was directed by Mel Stewart. It was written by Roald Dahl, quote unquote written by Roald Dahl.
It was credited to Roald Dahl.
Here's the quick version. He did write the script, but while they were shooting, they did bring in an American writer to actually do a rewrite of it.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of things that were added. Charlie drinking the fizzy lifting drink, the whole Slugworth subplot, that's all added. Yeah. That was stuff that Dahl did not put in. And kind of notoriously, Dahl hated that stuff and kind of wrote this movie off. And that's one of the reasons why Dahl adaptations didn't happen very much after this.
They're few and far between.
Yeah. And it's why a remake took so long to actually get made.
Yeah.
Because
he'd been dead for 15 years.
Yeah. And the family was very protective of this property.
Yeah.
The music was written by Leslie Bricusse and Anthony Newley. Stars Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka, Peter Ostrom as Charlie Bucket, Jack Albertson as Grandpa Joe. A lot of great actors that are in it.
Yeah.
So that's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, 1971. Then in 2005, we have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, directed by Tim Burton himself.
Sir Tim Burton.
Sir Timothy Burton.
I don't think he's a sir.
No, he's absolutely not.
You got so offended.
No, he does not deserve that. Written by John August, an admittedly great screenwriter who has a really fantastic podcast called Script Notes that I would recommend to anyone who's interested.
You should link to that.
He's super passionate about screenwriting. I'm kind of a fan of him now.
Cool.
In all the research that I've done. Music by Danny Elfman, Naturally, starring Johnny Depp. Naturally.
And Helena Bonham Carter. Naturally.
Christopher Lee. Naturally.
Is that Naturally? Is he in a lot of Tim Burton movies?
Oh, Tim Burton loves him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was in a bunch.
I didn't know that.
Whole bunch of really good people.
Yeah.
So those are the two movies that we're pitting against each other.
Yes.
So we should start with a little bit of back of the box. That's how we're going to start with this head-to-head. And we will pick the winner of which of these back of the boxes is the best one.
Or the most bugfuck nuts.
All right, so...
Wait, I think I should go first. I have here the 1971.
I think you should go first, and I have 2005. I'm ready to go when you're done.
Fantastic. So this is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, your golden ticket to the timeless classic in sparkling Blu-ray high definition. Join the expedition, visiting legendary Candyman Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder, in a splendiferous movie that wondrously brings to the screen the endlessly appetizing delights of Roald Dahl's classic book. Coated with flavorful tunes and production design that constantly dazzles the eye, this effervescent musical never fails to enchant young and old. On a whirlwind tour of Willy's incredible edible realm of chocolate waterfalls, elfish Oompa Loompas, and industrial-sized confections, a boy named Charlie, Peter Ostrom, will discover the sweetest secret of all, a generous, loving heart. And you'll rediscover the magic of a delicious family classic. So that's a lot of adjectives.
That's a lot. I
It's a
will say,
lot.
I mean, it kind of hints at the plot. I think it gets points for doing that.
Is that the best that you can say about it? It kind of hints at the plot.
2005, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. What wonders await you in Willy Wonka's factory? Sail along the chocolate river in a pink sugar boat. Experiment with everlasting gobstoppers in the inventing room. Observe talented squirrels in the nut room and travel to the television room via glass elevator. You'll find a lot that's funny, a little that's mysterious, and an adventure as sweet and satisfying as a Wonka Whipple Scrumptious Fudge Mellow Delight Bar. This dazzling film of Roald Dahl's classic children's novel, directed by Tim Burton and starring Johnny Depp and Freddie Highmore, is your golden ticket to a world so inventive and amazing you won't want to miss a delicious moment. I think there's a clear winner here.
I actually think, I mean, I don't know what you're going to say, but I think yours is better.
Oh, I thought yours was better.
Really?
Yeah. Well, yours at least talks that says Charlie Bucket.
See, I thought yours was better because it was more specific about the events in the movie.
Yeah, but mine just plays like a greatest hits of what's in the plot. It doesn't actually say anything
Mine
about the plot.
Mine is about the moral.
And yours mentions the main character.
Yeah, that's fair.
This doesn't even mention Charlie Bucket at all. Okay. No, I'm voting for yours.
All right, fine. I vote for mine too.
All right.
Done.
Let's move on. Let's start with Charlie Bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have two actors here.
Yes.
I'm just going to say this right off the bat. We will not have the actor names for every single person that is in this movie.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot. We've done a lot of research. I have a lot of notes, but I don't have that. But for Charlie Bucket...
I do have the names for that.
So in 1971, we have...
Peter Ostrom.
In 2005, we have...
Freddie Highmore.
Oh, good old Freddie Highmore. The good doctor himself, Freddie Highmore.
So Freddie Highmore's made a lot of movies. So what are Peter Ostrom's other movie credits?
I believe he did a movie called I'm Now a Vet. And I put my hands up cows' butts.
He's a dairy vet in upstate New York.
He's great.
He never made another movie.
We're not actually comparing the actor, Peter Ostrom, to Freddie Highmore. We're not comparing them as people at all. Because I think they both seem great, but Peter Ostrom seems awesome.
Well, also, like, it's a little unfair because Freddie Highmore is actually still a child.
He's not a child. He's a man.
I guess he's now a man.
He's a man.
Well,
he's not a boy, he's a man.
Peter Ostrom was an adult, a full adult at the time that the 2005 movie. It's just unfair to compare like an adult to a child.
I agree with that.
Yes.
But I'm just saying Peter Ostrom's great, but let's talk about them as actors.
Yes. What are some characteristics of Charlie Bucket, the character?
He's very good.
Yes, he's very good.
Very decent. He cares about his family deeply.
He loves them.
He's very honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think it hurts him to be dishonest.
Yes.
He feels things very intensely, I think.
He has a lot of secret desires of his heart.
Yeah.
But he's also very poor. Like, that's important to note. His family's extremely poor.
Like, I think he actually cares deeply about a lot of things.
Yes. Would you say he is emotional?
In the book?
Yeah.
In the book, I would say he's pretty emotional.
Yeah.
I don't think he shows that emotion a lot, but I think he's an emotional character. As readers, we get a lot of emotion from him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially at the end.
That's
like
definitely
he's
fair.
so happy.
Yeah.
When he gets the factory.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Peter Ostrom. I think that his performance in this movie is one of the finest child performances I've seen. And I think part of the reason for that is because he's so natural. Mm-hmm. And I get the feeling based on what I know of Peter Ostrom as an adult is that it wasn't so much acting as they just kind of stood him up in front of the camera and said, be yourself. And he's a good, kind, sweet person. And that really comes through. It's very pure, his performance. Like, and he's very cute. Like he's watching this as an adult, he's younger than I remember.
Oh, yeah. He's much smaller. Much
I
smaller.
think he must have only been 11 or 12 at the most. He's definitely not as old as a teenager.
Can I actually say my favorite line of his? I think he sells this line so amazingly. But basically, over the course of the movie, he gets 3 chances, 3 situations where he has the chance to get a golden ticket.
4 chocolate bars, 3 chances.
Yep. So in the second chance, his Grandpa Joe, who we'll get to, gives him $1 or whatever.
A nickel or whatever.
An amount of money.
Yeah.
Sends him out for a chocolate bar. And he comes back and he's got it and they're both really stressed and they open it together.
It's the middle of the night. They're whispering.
And everything tells you that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And Charlie says this line, I bet the golden ticket makes the chocolate taste terrible.
And Grandpa Joe just gives him the biggest hug. It's so sweet.
It's the sweetest moment in the entire movie.
Yeah.
I love it so much. And I think Peter Ostrom sells that line so well.
Yeah, he does this thing. He's very blonde. He's very blue-eyed. He does this thing where he kind of looks up into the camera and his like chin wobbles a little bit. Like he's got, keeping his chin up. He's trying not to cry. I think like pure is the word I would use to describe his performance. He is excellent. Very natural, very raw, but very natural.
I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Freddie Highmore, 2005.
This was not Freddie Highmore's only film.
No, he's been in many things.
Yes.
Many things.
He was in Finding Neverland, right? Wasn't he one of the little boys in that? He's a little British child. Peter Ostrom is American.
From all the reading that I did, I'm blanking now because I don't have it in front of me. Either this led to him being cast in Finding Neverland, or Finding Neverland led to him being cast in this.
They came
because
out
of Johnny Depp.
Yeah. I think this came out before Finding Neverland because I saw both of them in the theater. And I think this movie I was in high school and Finding Neverland I was in college. That's my memory of it. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So I will say this about child actors.
Yes.
I think some child actors take direction really well, but I think most child actors, they kind of either have it in them or they don't, and you kind of wind them up, point them in the right direction, and have them go.
Well, a lot of them are trained, and some of them are trained to do certain things that like whoever trained them thought were cute.
Yeah.
And so they just do that all the time.
I'm going to say something that I do not feel reflects on any particular actor as an adult. I do not think Freddie Highmore is especially good in this. I think as far as child actors go, he's good. I mean, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, I thought in the 2005 movie, the level of performance from the child actors was poor. And I think he is the best of a bad bunch. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I think he's fine. The biggest reason that I'm going to give the win in this round to 1971 is because of the way they changed the character. They went in and I'm talking about John August, the screenwriter, who, by the way, had never seen the 1971 version when he started writing this.
Mind-blowing to me.
But loved the book.
Yeah.
Basically, my take on that is, yes, it's crazy that he never saw the 1971 version, but it's not crazy that he wrote this movie because I'm sure that as soon as they found out he had never seen it,
they were like, oh God, don't watch it. Don't watch it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He and Tim Burton made the decision that they wanted Charlie to be in the background as ordinary as possible. They didn't want anything extraordinary about him.
Well, what you told me was that element of him was what Tim Burton responded to.
Yes.
Like him being a neutral observer and in the background and very quiet. Kind of like when we talked about Carol, that like there was something in the book that you responded to that the movie explicitly didn't do. I feel like this is kind of the opposite, that like there was something that Tim Burton really found appealing about this character that maybe isn't what the majority of people find, but that's what he decided.
Yeah.
So he made him a very passive character. Does that make sense?
Yes. And that's fair.
Yeah.
I think an artist can find whatever they want in something. However, he's the main character of the movie.
Yeah.
He should be compelling.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying make him do a whole bunch of stuff that's invented. I'm not saying give him inner turmoil. I'm not saying make a lot of conflict, but make him compelling, make him interesting.
Have a moment where he makes a decision.
Yeah.
Like, okay, at the end of the 1971 movie, and this is not in the book.
No.
Charlie and Grandpa Joe, in the 1971 movie, they stay behind the tour a little bit, and they steal fizzy lifting drinks, and there's some peril, and this is something Willy Wonka has told them not to do, and they do it anyway, and they kind of rescue themselves, and nothing's really said about it. And then they get to the very end, and all of the other children are gone, and Grandpa Joe says to Willy Wonka,
the lifetime supply of chocolate for Charlie. When does he get it?
He doesn't.
Why not?
Because he broke the rules.
What rules? We didn't see any rules, did we, Charlie?
Wrong, sir. Wrong. Under Section 37B of the contract signed by him, it states quite clearly that all offers shall become null and void if, and you can read it for yourself in this photostatic copy, I, the undersigned, shall forfeit all rights, privileges, and licenses herein and herein contained, etc., fax mentis incendium gloria culpum, etc., memo bis punitor delicatum. It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You stole fizzy lifting drinks. You bumped into the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized, so you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
So it's very intense.
it's very intense. And Grandpa Joe says, "How dare you? I love it. It's so intense."
You're a swindler.
He says, "How dare you? He's a little boy,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted this. How dare you?" And then he looks at Charlie and he says, so I have to explain a couple of things. There's a rival candy maker who wants someone to bring him an everlasting gobstopper, which is a type of candy, so that he can steal the secrets. And he's been coming around to the children and telling them to bring him one.
Yeah.
He says, "Come on, Charlie, if Slugworth wants an everlasting gobstopper, he'll get one."
Charlie has one.
And Charlie has one that Willy Wonka has given him. He
Right.
didn't steal it. And Charlie kind of goes to the door and he looks at his grandpa, and then he turns around and he walks back to Willy Wonka, and he takes the everlasting gobstopper out of his pocket and he places it on the desk next to Willy Wonka. And that is a decision and a choice that he makes, and the camera lingers on him, and he could go either way. He would be justified in going either way. And I feel like the equivalent in the 2005 movie, you're aching to say something, but let me just finish.
Yep.
The equivalent
All I
in-
was going to say is from that moment on, the 1971 version becomes the sweetest movie ever
It's
made.
adorable. The equivalent in the 2005 movie is the movie ends. There's nothing with the gobstoppers. That's not a thing. Charlie's won the day. He's the last one left. They go to his family's house. They're all standing there, all the grandparents, all the parents, everybody. And Willy Wonka tells him, "I'm going to give you the factory, but your family can't come." And Charlie goes, "Oh, well, that's not possible. I could never leave my family." But that's not a choice.
That's not doing something. That's committing to something you're already doing.
Well, not only that, but like there's no particular nobility. I mean, it is very sweet of him, and he is sweet, and it's played that way. But there's no particular nobility in a little boy saying, "No, I don't want to go with you, stranger, and never see my family again. I love my family."
Yeah.
Like, it's not a decision that he's making where he could have been equally justified in going either way. Like, if he was willing to give up his family, he would be a monster. Like, that's not a choice that's possible to make. So you're not giving him any agency to do anything or make any decisions. And I think the character is ill-served by that movie. There's no other version where Charlie is asked to give up his family to come live in the chocolate factory.
no, there is not.
Yeah.
So I think we have a winner.
Yeah.
1971.
By far.
Spoiler alert, this might happen a bunch. That brings us to Mr. and Mrs. Bucket.
Yes.
Mr. Bucket.
Mr. Bucket.
Buckets of fun.
Buckets of fun.
I think we have an early contender right now for Sir not appearing in this film.
So, in the book, all of the children have two parents. In the 2005 movie, most children have one parent.
All the children have at least one parent.
All the children have at least one parent. In the 1971 film, Charlie only has one parent because his dad is explicitly dead.
He's
He
gone.
is deceased. He is dead before the movie begins.
So he is my nominee for Sir not appearing in this film.
Yeah.
There may be some runners up that we might get to in a little bit.
Indeed.
But he, I think, is the clear choice. Do you agree?
I agree.
I think we have a Sir not appearing in this film.
There it is.
He does, however, appear in the 2005 version.
So he's the winner by default. He's the winner by forfeit.
And I'm going to throw this out there.
Yeah.
Even by default, I really like Noah Taylor.
Yeah, he's good.
He plays Mr. Buckets of Fun in the 2005 version.
Well, what he allows is there's a lot of weird shit that made it into the 2005 version, but some stuff from the book that wasn't in the 1971 movie did make it into 2005, and I really honor that. And one of the things is that Mr. Bucket works at the toothpaste factory screwing on toothpaste caps, and that's such a Roald Dahl thing. Like, that your job is to screw on toothpaste caps at the toothpaste factory. I'm making the gesture of what that looks like. So I'm glad that made it in there.
What about Mrs. Bucket? Because Mrs. Bucket in the 2005 version is Mrs. Burton.
Yes.
Helena Bonham Carter herself.
That's right. And she's fine. She's great. She's just a mom.
I think she's really good in it.
She's very natural.
She doesn't get a song.
No. So in the 1971 film, one of the things I really appreciate about this movie, as I do,
up, Charlie.
there it is. As I do with a lot of,
remember the rest of the words.
I mean, I know all the words.
Even though you skipped it every time.
I did. I was coming to that. You spoiled it.
Sorry.
One of the things I appreciate about this movie, much like a lot of movies from the 70s, is that a lot of the people look like real people, and his mom looks like a woman who's had a hard life.
And more than anyone, actually looks like the illustrations in the Joseph Schimmelman edition.
She looks like a mom. Like,
Yeah.
she just looks like a widowed mother that's had a tough life, but the right age to be his mother. Whereas I would say Helena Bonham Carter is maybe a little elderly for that, to be the mother of a young child.
I'd have to double check right now, but it would not shock me if they were the same age.
You mean when they did the movie?
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
And she gets a whole song, which, much like the song Love Is Gone in Muppet Christmas Carol, was the song that my brothers and I always fast forwarded when we watched the VHS tape because we thought it was sappy. But she gets a whole song about her love for Charlie. How do you feel about that?
I never skipped it. I will admit, I never actually. So let's just get this out of the way. I told myself for years that I didn't like this movie.
It's very sad.
Because it's very intense. Parts of it are scary. It's very grotesque. And I just kind of didn't like it. Rewatching it now, I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. And this was a song, though, never really had a problem with it.
Yeah.
I always thought it was really sweet. She's really nice.
I thought it was really sappy.
Yeah.
As an adult, it's a little better. Still not great.
Bottom line, I'm going to give this to 2005 because of the presence of Mr. Bucket.
Buckets of fun.
Not only because he's there, but also because I really like Helena Bonham Carter and Noah Taylor.
Okay.
I think they are very loving.
I'm okay with that, and I also think this is going to be a rare event that the 2005 one wins.
Let's give 2005 one.
All right, let's keep going.
Now, this one, I actually think might go either way.
Okay.
Nah, well, who am I kidding? I know which way it's going to go. Let's talk about Grandpa Joe.
Oh, Grandpa Joe!
So he is played in 1971 by Jack Albertson.
Jack Albertson of The Poseidon Adventure, where he plays the same character.
He is played in 2005 by...
David Kelly?
Yes, David Kelly.
Is that his name?
Yes, it is.
Of Waking Ned Divine. He's wonderful.
I'm going to throw this out there.
I love both of them.
I also do.
I also love the character Grandpa Joe. He's my favorite character.
I think Grandpa Joe's story and his journey in 1971 is better and more book appropriate. I do think I like David Kelly better for the part.
He is more accurate to the book description of him, certainly, as being just a wizened old skeleton, but with some energy.
This is really important to me.
Yeah.
Because I think for years people have really shit on Jack Albertson's version.
Have they?
Oh,
I feel like he's beloved.
Oh, no. When I say shit on, I mean like it's a running joke about how much of an asshole Grandpa Joe is because he never gets out of his bed for 20 years, and then Charlie finally finds a golden ticket and he jumps out of bed.
He's hale and hearty.
And he's, I'm great, I'm going to go to the chocolate
He's
factory.
literally kicking his heels.
In the book, it makes sense that this is crazy that this is happening because he is a skeleton.
Yeah.
Jack Albertson looks great.
He looks amazing.
He looks fantastic.
He unfortunately died only a few years after this movie.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, sweetie.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's not your fault, unless it is.
It was not. It was before I was born.
David Kelly, though, he looks exactly the way Grandpa Joe should look.
Very old and very skinny and kind of gross, but like has a twinkle in his eye. I when I say gross, he's adorable. I love him.
He's great.
Love this actor.
He's great in this. I cannot say enough things about how many great moments he has in this movie.
Yeah. He gets more of a backstory. Like,
well, here's the thing.
yeah.
Because of everything that I just said, I would go towards David Kelly as my favorite.
Except,
there's just one
yeah.
nitpicky thing that bothers
you
me.
did not like this at all.
So they give him this whole backstory that he actually knew Willy Wonka and worked in Willy Wonka's chocolate store before he had the chocolate factory.
Yeah, like in the shop, like as the Candyman.
And they show him like 20 years ago, but he looks exactly the same because he's ancient.
It's pretty funny.
And so there's all these flashbacks. My problem with it is he's telling all of this to Charlie at the beginning of the movie, and Charlie's never heard any of it before.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is Grandpa Joe loves Charlie so fucking much.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
You get that with Jack Albertson and Peter Ostrom.
Yeah.
In this version, though, if he loves him so much, why has he never told him that he knows Willy Wonka? We see him telling it to him for the first time.
Yeah, and like all what you said I thought was really, really good, which was like all you had to do was have one more line in the movie, which is tell me the story again, Grandpa.
Which is 100% something kids say.
Yeah, of course.
You could look at that as being shitty exposition in a movie.
Of course.
That is 100% something I did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I think any kid who has a story they like their parents and grandparents to tell will tell me that story again.
Totally. Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I wanted. I'm giving it to Jack Albertson, even though David Kelly is fantastic.
You know what? I'm going to be controversial.
Yep.
Because you gave it to Jack Albertson, I'm going to give it to David Kelly only because I like them equally. I want them each to have a point.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
So be it.
So let it be written, so let it be done.
We should talk about the other grandparents briefly.
Let's do it. So, all the other let's be quick about this guy, this one, because it's not that important, and they're only in a couple scenes at the beginning and at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, all 4 grandparents live in one bed. They have all lived together in the same bed for 20 years and have never set foot on the floor.
They eat and sleep and pee and poop in one bed.
In
There's
my
chamber
notes,
pots.
Here's what my notes say. As we were watching the 1971 film, dash, Mr. Bucket is dead. Dash, all caps. How do they poop?
I think this is a question many children have asked themselves.
Yes.
It's pretty clear to me who the winner is here.
Yeah,
I'd love
me
to hear
too.
your opinion.
Okay, so in the 1971 movie, the 3 grandparents who are not Grandpa Joe are not really differentiated from each other. One of them has a German accent.
I think they're differentiated. One of them's a man and 2 of them are ladies.
And one of the ladies has a German accent.
Yeah.
That's how we know they're different people. In the 2005 one, something they did that I appreciated, that this is actually not from the book, this is original, is that they gave them all very distinct personalities. So the other Grandpa George, is really grumpy, but also has a distinct relationship with Charlie. One of the grandmothers is a little senile.
Grandma Georgina?
Grandma Georgina. She's a little dotty. And the other one is very sweet. She's also Hold Me, Touch Me from the producers.
Of the same year.
Yes.
She had a good year.
She had a great year as an elder woman.
And she loves him so much, and she's so sweet.
She's very sweet. That's Grandpa Joe's wife.
They all have relationships with each other. I think it's clear that 2005 is the better version.
They are more distinctly characterized, significantly so. And I will go with 2005.
I liked every scene they were in. I thought I didn't like as much that was going on outside of the Bucket household.
Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. So that brings us to the children. The other winners of the golden tickets. 4 children.
So many children.
We start with Augustus Gloop.
The first finder of the golden ticket.
Now he is
a glutton.
He's a fat little boy.
There's some fat shaming in this book. Yep. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's not great. The concept of being fat is presented in this book on the same level as being like a jerk or having a bad personality.
Yes.
And that is problematic, and I want that to be acknowledged. It's not great.
We've done it.
It's not good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we mentioned that, and to be clear, we are not endorsing that point of view.
No.
No.
So Augustus Gloop is an American child from America in
or
the book.
A German child from Germany in both movies.
So this is weird. They tried not to base the 2005 version on the 1971 version.
Except.
But he's only German because of the 1971 version. He's not German in the book.
He's not German. All of the children in the book, I'm going to say, this might be controversial. The book is set in America and all the characters are American.
Yep.
Despite the fact that it was written by a Norwegian British author. It is a little bit mysterious that allegedly the writer of the 2005 version had never seen the 1971 version, and yet the character is very similar.
Yeah, I wonder if they said to him like, "Oh, and Augustus Gloop needs to be German," and he's going, "German?
He's
Why?"
not- I mean, it
That's
does
weird.
sound like a German name,
It does,
but he's not German in the book.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's continue.
I like 1971.
I do too. He's less of a caricature.
Mm-hmm.
He's more realistic, but also kind of funnier. Like the scene where they're in the restaurant and his dad eats the microphone is
Yes.
hilarious. Although I guess again, kind of a joke on fat people, which is again
Yeah.
not great.
Well,
but it is,
looks like you're a bad person.
it is funny.
Yeah.
I don't endorse fat shaming. It's very bad.
I just feel
not
like
do that.
the way they portray him in the 2005 version, he's so. First of all, they use digital effects to make him look very porcelain.
Yeah.
He looks like a kind of a grotesque cartoon character.
Yeah, they do something really weird to his face.
And beyond that, there's nothing I can point to that's especially memorable about Augustus Gloop in the 2005 version, save one, but please continue.
No, the only thing I was going to say was in the 1971 version, the joke is that he's fat. There's no getting around that. The joke
Yeah.
is that he's fat. But he also seems like a dick. Like he seems like a bully and a
Mm-hmm.
spoiled kid just as much as the other children are spoiled kids. Like his personality seems like he is greedy and a jerk. Slightly separate from the fact that his sin is that he's fat.
Literally a sin.
Yes. Gluttony.
So that's Augustus Gloop. So I think we're going with 1971.
I'm going to go with 1971.
All right, that brings us to Veruca Salt.
And the Salt family.
She is
She's a very rich, spoiled little girl.
a brat.
A brat, you might say. Her father owns a nut factory. And the reason that Veruca has a golden ticket is her father bought 1 million candy bars and took all of his lady workers who usually shell nuts and told them to shell candy bars instead. And one of them found the golden ticket.
And Veruca got one.
And Veruca got one and showed up at the factory. And she wants everything and she wants it now.
I do not think this one is even close.
Yeah, no. There's no competition. The actress who plays Veruca in the 1971 version, again, like the child actor performances in that movie are very strong. She's great. And she gets a whole song to sing by herself. She does a great job. She was 13. She was a little bit older, I think, than some of the
Yeah.
other kids.
I think she's the best one of all the kids who aren't Charlie.
Yeah, and she's still a working actor
Yeah.
today. But like she's funny. She knows when to be sweet and when to be bratty and like how to kind of play those two things off of each other in a way that I don't think the little girl in the 2005 version does at all. Like the 2005 one is just
She's a child actor.
she's a child actor. Just all of those children are so stilted and rehearsed, and I don't like it.
I don't either.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because we're criticizing children.
They're children, but like they weren't directed well. Like
Yeah.
it's not their fault.
No, not at all. I do not blame them for 1 second.
Yeah.
I think it's clear that it's 1971.
It's 1971
though.
both for father and daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I would like to say about the just like the casting, because Veruca's mother in both movies has a very small part, like she barely has any lines, but you kind of see what she is.
Barely any lines? In 2005, I don't think she has any lines.
In 2005, she's like a blonde bimbo trophy wife, and the father is like older. In 1971, the thing that I really like about the two Salt parents is that it's so clear who those people are. They're
Yeah.
like Northerners who are new money, who like made it in the nut business, but they're like quote unquote common, and
They're British, by
they're
the way.
British, yeah, but they're northern. And like they clearly sent their child to very good school. She's got a very posh accent, but they both have northern accents. And the mom is like just a normal looking woman. Like she's not a bimbo. She's not like particularly young, and she's just sitting there embroidering and going, well, the most important thing is that, you know, our child is happy. Like that's her line. Like that's clear where they're coming from, and it's just so much more subtle. We grew up poor. We had nout. That's me trying to be northern. We grew up poor. We had nothing, and we want our child to have everything.
Yeah.
Like that's where they're coming from. But it's literally just in the casting. They don't have to have an elaborate backstory to make you understand that. Anyway, I love it.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head emphatically.
Yes,
I'm
nodding your head
Nodding. Yeah, I'm nodding my head emphatically.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yes.
So I think 1971 by like head and shoulders.
Oh yeah, by a
above.
long shot.
That brings us to our child number 3, Violet
Beauregard.
Violet, you're turning Violet Beauregard.
There it is.
She's gum chewer.
She's gum chewer normally.
This is one of the points in the book where I just wrote down Roald Dahl throws so much shit at the wall to see what sticks. I feel like creating a character that just chews gum all the time.
That's her vice.
That could have
gum.
been in any of his books.
I chew gum all the time. I like to have a little gum.
But that could have shown up in any of them. It
Like-
didn't need to be in Charlie and the
Yeah.
Chocolate Factory,
Yeah.
right? So Violet Beauregard.
Mhm. She is a competitive gum chewer.
Mhm.
She holds the world record for the longest chewed piece of gum.
3 months.
She's just bratty. Like
Yeah.
she's just generally bratty. She's annoying and she is heedless. Like she doesn't listen
Mm-hmm.
to anything anyone tells her.
How do you feel about 1971 versus 2005?
I mean, this is going to be very similar for all of these. 1971 is a lot more natural.
Mhm.
She's super bratty and annoying, but like a child would be.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2005, they make a little bit of a change, which is like they took the fact that her character is supposed to be like this world record holder in this one thing and made her like not like a pageant kid with a pageant mom, but like kind of like that, like
Yeah.
a high achieving child who wins a lot of awards for stuff, but her mom is the same, like very competitive and backstabby.
And clearly living vicariously through her daughter.
Exactly. And her mom is Missy Pyle, who's great
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and funny. Of both movies, this little girl, again, not her fault.
Anna
and
Sophia Robb is actually very good. She's been good in other stuff.
She was my least favorite of any of the child actors. I thought her performance was not good. And
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
I don't think it's her fault. I think she was directed poorly. She was also very young. Like she couldn't have been more than 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought her performance was very one-dimensional and very like over-rehearsed and canned and child actory and not good.
Yep. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm giving it to 1971 for a more shallow reason than that.
Go ahead.
So I already said the line, Violet, you're turning Violet, Violet. It's one of my favorite lines from the book. It is delivered beautifully in the 1971 version.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 2005 version, we watch it, and I was horrified when Missy Pyle says the line, Violet, you're turning Violet. And I got really mad
End of sentence.
because I don't understand why you would change that line.
Well, he'd never seen the movie, so how would he know what the line was?
It's in the book.
Yeah, I know.
That's the line in the book.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
All right.
I was annoyed about that. So 1971, because I am a petty person.
That's fine.
Let's talk about Mike TV.
Oh, I hate Mike TV.
I kind of don't love him in either version.
No, he's annoying in both.
But
Like
I'm gonna-
annoying in the character is annoying,
Yeah.
but just annoying in both.
I'm going to make this one short for myself,
Yeah.
at least. I apologize. I'm 100% giving this to 1971.
Yeah.
Not because I like 1971, but because in 2005,
Oh, it's so troubling. It's so disturbing.
they decided to make this child a fucking psychopath.
He's a criminal. He's a violent criminal.
He is horrifying. And I was talking before about how Dahl had like dark stuff in his books, but there's always a clear separation between fantasy and reality.
And there's also the understanding that children are children.
Yes.
And what they are is what adults made them be.
Mhm.
And this is beyond that.
Yeah. He's
He-
absolutely
he-
terrifying and
I mean,
horrifying.
I don't say this lightly because
Yeah.
this was 2005. It's now 2018, and we kind of know what that personality looks like. He's a school shooter.
Yeah.
Like that's what he is.
He's a we need to talk about Kevin.
Yeah, like not in a good way. Not that that's good, but like not
Not
no,
in an interesting or
no-
compelling
not
way
in an interesting
fictionally.
Yeah, or not and I also think in kind of an unexplored way. And I know that that's weird to say about something where the whole point is that the characters are over the top. Like that's clearly what they were going for, but it is not interesting or entertaining to watch someone who is that damaged
Mhm.
like do bad things and like tell adults they're idiots. Like
Yeah.
it's actually really disturbing to watch.
Yeah.
This
I
kid
fe-
is like an incel and a school shooter.
Yeah. And I feel like Tim Burton, I'm sure, was delighted by what this kid was doing.
Yeah.
This is a moment where I feel like someone needed to, whoever loved it. I'm gonna kind of blame Tim Burton for a lot of this,
You should.
but I feel like someone needed to rein him in a little bit and say, so Tim, here's a couple of reasons why this is actually going too far.
I mean, I'm a little disturbed by like the kid coming up with that performance. Like I don't know what that kid is doing now.
Oh, I don't blame him at all.
I don't blame him.
He's a child actor.
But like
They do what they're told.
he's so disturbing. Like I can't emphasize it enough.
I mean, here's the deal. I'm actually not surprised by that at all. Kids are fucked up.
Yeah, I
And
guess.
I think if you get a kid and you say, these are the lines you're going to say, and he's like, I get to say retard in front of a camera? You're going to
Great.
like tell me that it's okay to do that because you're telling me to do it? I'll do that.
I mean, that's not okay either.
No,
Like,
it's not
It's not
okay.
okay that the adults.
But no, that's not okay. But kids say that stuff.
No, I know.
Kids are assholes.
I am worried that.
But he's like kids are assholes, which explains to me why a kid was okay doing this. But the character himself is a psychopath.
I am worried, genuinely worried that this child actor was genuinely damaged by portraying this role.
Honestly, he seems fine.
Does he?
I've seen a little bit. He seems fine.
Oh, okay. Well, fine.
Yeah, he seems like he got better.
Fair enough.
So that's it for the kids and the parents. There are a few more characters we need to talk about. Really, one character and a group of characters.
Yes.
But let's talk about that one character.
Yeah.
The sometimes titular character, sometimes not, Mr. William Jefferson Wonka.
Sometimes titular, always important.
Yep.
Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka. This one's going to be a mess.
This might be a landslide. Let's talk about who he is.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about Willy Wonka much at all.
So he is, I'm going to give you some characteristics of him.
Yeah.
It's this short, high energy, manic character, kind of ageless. He gives you the sense that he's much older than he appears. So he doesn't look very young,
Yeah.
I'm sure. He doesn't seem to love anything more than just chocolate and mayhem. In the book, those are the two things that he loves.
Title of his autobiography, Chocolate and Mayhem.
Though that's what's important to Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
In the book.
Would you say that he is predictable in his behavior?
He is decidedly unpredictable in his behavior.
Yes. Unpredictable. You never know what he's going to do next.
Right. Let's talk about the two actors that we have seen portray this character.
Should we go recent to past or past to recent?
Let's talk about the one we like.
Okay.
I'll talk about Gene Wilder. I adore Gene Wilder.
Spoiler alert.
The crazy thing to me is this movie predates Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles.
And the producer. No, not the producers.
Not the producers.
Not the producers.
But that's amazing to me. I think he is. It's hard to say like he's great in this. I think the performance he gives is one of the best performances I've ever seen in any movie.
Yeah. I was reading something on Reddit today.
Yeah.
Of all things. But it was a best of Reddit comment, and it was about Marlon Brando. Someone was asking, explain why Marlon Brando was so big and how he got away with all this bullshit on movie sets that we hear about. And the person responded to say, today we think of Marlon Brando as just a really good actor and a really famous person. But he literally changed the craft of movie making and how people act in movies just as much as sound and color and CGI and all of these things that we think of as huge innovations of movie making. Marlon Brando was that for acting, and we don't understand how big of a leap that was in how movies are made.
Which I think is a very interesting perspective.
I really responded to it as far as naturalistic acting goes. I thought it was really, really interesting because I had not thought of it from that perspective before. But I think Gene Wilder's performance in this movie is kind of on that level. Like, we don't think about it because we've seen this movie so many times since childhood and almost take it for granted. But, like, he's amazing.
It amazes me that this is the version of the character that he played based on what the character is in the book.
Yeah.
Like this is not the character from the book.
No, he is.
In fact, we didn't get, of the two versions we're going to talk about, neither of them are the character from the book.
No, the character from the book is almost like a jolly elf. And this character is kind of dark. He's introspective.
Yeah.
He's deeply introspective.
He's well read.
He's well read. He quotes from Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde and
Shaughnessy.
O'Shaughnessy. He's almost like depressive. Like, he has moods. He clearly has dark moods. But he also has a lot of things that bring him joy. Really one thing that brings him joy.
I think he is a person who is very in touch with his own joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, he knows what he likes and what he does not like. And what he likes, he enjoys enormously. And what he does not like, he cannot abide.
Yep. That is accurate.
One of the things that I love about this movie is the first song, the Candyman.
Yeah.
Which the creepy candy store guy sings.
It's like a little creepy.
He touches children in a way that I don't like.
You know what? Watching it again, I actually was expecting it to be much creepier than it turned out being. I think he does a really, really good job of keeping everything above board.
I will also say this was the first time I ever noticed the little girl getting hit in the face
Almost.
with the counter when it flies up, and you told me it was like a meme that people knew about. I'd never noticed it before. But there's a line in that song which is the world tastes good because the Candyman thinks it should. And I love that. Like, upon reflection, like that's really his character. He thinks the world should be a little sweeter, so he set out to make it that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the level to which he clearly cares is so palpable throughout this entire movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to give just my favorite moment of his from the entire movie.
Please.
It's in the TV scene. Mike TV has already been shrunk, and he says to the Oompa Loompas, you got to take him to the stretching room and take him to the taffy pulling room and stretch him out. And the Oompa Loompa like motions him down, and he whispers down. The Oompa Loompa whispers something to him, and he just looks at him. He just says, "No, I won't hold you responsible." It is so.
You like almost were in tears.
I love that moment so much because he's telling you so many things about this character. He is. He cares about the Oompa Loompas. He respects their position.
Yep.
He understands their responsibilities.
He's a good boss.
He's a good boss. And that's the thing I love about it, is that there's so much problematic stuff with the Oompa Loompas. In this, he makes the relationship between Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas feel like an employer and employees.
Yes.
Who have a good relationship with each other.
Totally.
They choose to be there.
Yep.
And choose to work for him.
Yes.
That is the thing I like about what he brings to it in their relationship.
I think that's all that needs to be said.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's wonderful.
Well, we'll talk about music in a minute, but
Yeah.
Pure Imagination is my favorite song from the whole movie.
My
I think
favorite
he's incredible.
My favorite is I've Got a Golden Ticket.
It's a really good song, too.
Let's talk about 2005.
I have a few things I want to say.
So if you listened to our Murder on the Orient Express episode, you may know how I feel about Johnny Depp.
Problematic.
I hate Johnny Depp. I hate him in every movie. I hate him in everything. I can't stand him. I do not like him. Please go on.
As an actor, I am very, very hot and cold on him.
Yeah.
Sometimes I love him in a movie, and sometimes I just don't care for him at all.
Yeah.
I will give him this. He is fearless in that he is always willing to try something.
He commits to the bit.
Yep.
He commits
always.
to the character.
Always.
Now, whether he commits in a good way is debatable.
He committed to a bad thing in this.
It's bad.
But before we talk about that, I want to give you a little list of actors we could have seen as Willy Wonka in this movie.
Is this going to make me sad?
Maybe. Some of these might. This is literally the list of people who, over the course of the years that this was in development, were considered for the role of Willy Wonka.
Can you tell me before you read the list,
Yeah.
like, how many people we're about to hear?
25 people.
Oh, Jesus.
So quick, I'm going to go through all these. I'm going to quick thumbs up or down from you, my beautiful co-host, whether you would be cool with them as Willy Wonka.
Great.
Bill Murray.
No.
Christopher Walken.
No.
Steve Martin.
No.
Robin Williams.
Yes.
Nicolas Cage.
No.
Jim Carrey.
No.
I'm going to say yes on that one.
I hate Jim Carrey.
I know you do. Michael Keaton.
No.
Really?
No.
Oh, I think he'd be good. Robert De Niro.
Yes.
Wait. Hang on. Hold the fucking phone. So you're not okay with Michael Keaton, but you are okay with Robert De Niro?
I would be fascinated to see the direction that would go.
Brad Pitt.
No.
Will Smith.
No. Just because I know the kind of movie they would make if it was Will Smith. I don't have anything against Will Smith.
Mike Myers.
Again, same thing. Same.
Ben Stiller.
No.
Leslie Nielsen.
Yes.
Adam Sandler.
No.
John Cleese.
Yes.
Eric Idle.
Yes.
Michael Palin.
Yes.
Now, here's the ironic thing about all of them.
Yeah.
They all wanted the part in 1971, but they were not big enough stars to get it.
Was Graham Chapman already dead?
He never came up.
Ah.
Oh, yes, he was already
I think
dead
he
by
was
this
dead.
point.
Yeah, he was dead.
I'm gonna quick sidebar. Which of the Pythons would you prefer to see as Willy Wonka? Because I know who I would prefer to see.
As Willy Wonka?
Yes.
In what year?
Let's say 1971.
Okay.
No, 1971 or 2005. It's the same answer for me both times.
Michael Palin.
I love you so much. This is great. I knew there's a reason I married you. All right, I got two more.
All right.
Now, one is just another name on the list, and the other one was literally Tim Burton's second choice if Johnny Depp couldn't do it.
Okay, which is which?
I'm going to give you two names.
Okay.
And you are going to pick which was just another name on the list and which was his second choice
Oh my
behind
God.
Johnny Depp.
There's so much pressure.
Name number 1, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
No.
And name number 2, Patrick Stewart.
Fuck.
Which one do you think was just another name on the list and which was his second choice?
Okay, I want to be clear.
Yep.
Both of these are a yes from me.
Okay, good.
I think it was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson
Which what?
as his second choice.
And you think Patrick Stewart was just a name on the list?
Yes.
You get a golden ticket.
Yes. You set me up for that though, because the way that you presented it was, this is going to be fucked up.
Yeah, a little bit.
Both of those are a strong yes for me. Those are my two favorites on the list.
I would have been fine with them.
Fine with it.
Honestly, my favorites are Michael Palin and the two of them.
I would be fascinated to see what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson did with this role.
And in retrospect, that would have been so much better. So we've said all of that. How is Johnny Depp?
Bad.
So bad. So incredibly bad. I learned some things about this.
Oh, God.
First of all, John August, I listened to an interview with him. He was on the show, a really, really good podcast called I Was There Too. We'll link to that episode. He was talking about the fact that when he knew Johnny Depp was going to be involved, Johnny Depp was going to play this character as Alfred Hitchcock.
No.
And then he showed up on set one day.
Oh, God.
And he hadn't been there they'd already been shooting for a couple of weeks, and it was in the invention room scene. And the way he describes this is he looked over and he says, "Holy shit, Hilary Swank's here."
I have no reaction to that.
Because he didn't know what Johnny Depp looked like yet in the part. And he found out that Johnny Depp had completely changed his mind. He had basically arrived on set and said, "Oh no, I'm doing something different." He had said this to Tim Burton, and Tim Burton is the type of director who says to his actors, "Oh sure, no, you do it whatever the way you want." I do not think Tim Burton is an actor's director.
I'm shaking my head.
He does it. Now, some have said that he was doing Michael Jackson.
That's what it sounds like to me, just the voice.
I love Tim Burton's excuse for why that is not the case.
Why is it not the case?
Because his excuse was, well, that's not true because Michael Jackson actually likes kids.
I have no reaction to that.
Silence. Silence from the other side of the room.
I don't know if you saw it, my face just fell.
Yeah, I saw that. I think everyone heard it. He's basing it on like children's TV hosts from childhood, like
Yeah,
Mr.
he's
Rogers and
Pee-wee
stuff
Herman.
like that.
No, he's Pee-wee Herman.
Yeah.
It's fucking disturbing.
This is one of the most questionable performances I've ever seen. I think this is Johnny Depp's worst performance in a Tim Burton movie.
I think you could make a case for any movie.
Ooh, maybe.
You could make a case for it.
Any Johnny Depp performance.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not the
Yes.
worst performance in any movie ever.
Well, I was wondering. I think we can put aside the character for a moment.
Yeah.
Because I think we've said all we really need to say about Johnny Depp's performance. It is terrible.
It does not deserve our attention.
But how do they change the character?
Well, they give him a backstory.
Oh, good. Oh,
which
fantastic.
is
Because
exactly
we really needed
what
that.
needed. So his dad was Christopher Lee.
So, I mean, naturally, he grew up, he's a chocolate man, so naturally his dad probably also loves candy, right?
His dad hates candy.
What?
And is the most famous dentist in the world.
Oh, Jesus.
And also is Christopher Lee.
What the fuck does this have to do with the shark?
That's gotta be we gotta start using that as our tagline for bug fuck nuts
Oh, my God.
situations. So this has nothing to do with the shark. This has nothing to do with the shark.
Nothing to do with the shark at all. It's giving. So we've already talked about how they took away story from Charlie.
Yeah.
And gave all this story to Willy Wonka, which is super fucking ironic given that this is the one that's called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and not Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I don't care that he had weird braces and went trick-or-treating and his dad burned his candy and he went off to be a chocolatier and then their house burned down. I don't care.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about their reconciliation at the end.
No.
I don't need to see Johnny Depp in an Anna Wintour wig talking to Christopher Lee.
Hello, I'm Joan Didion.
I don't need to see that at all. I don't give a shit. He does this thing throughout the entire movie where he can't say the word parents.
Yeah.
It always gets stuck in his throat. And you know what? I get that they want to give him backstory, but it doesn't make any fucking sense that Willy Wonka doesn't like kids. It doesn't make any sense at all.
They went about it the wrong
it's
way.
Such a poor choice.
It's a bummer. It's a bummer.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Now,
a bummer.
I learned one thing. I'm going to say this is the last thing I'll say about Willy Wonka
let's move
and
on.
the writing of the 2005 movie. Would it surprise you to know that John August went to the set one day? He'd worked with Tim Burton on Big Fish. They went to the set one day, and They were shooting one of the scenes, and John August thought, you know what? I actually think the dialogue could be a little different in this scene. So he went up to Tim Burton after the take, and he said, just so you know, like, if you wanted to do it this other way, if you wanted them to say this other thing, because I'm the writer, like, I can... That's not ad-libbing, that's writing.
Mm-hmm.
They could do it this way. He said the look that Tim Burton gave him, he described it as the doors closing.
I don't know what that means.
Tim Burton is not someone who likes to mess with stuff after.
Okay.
He doesn't want to collaborate. They have the script. That's what they're shooting.
That seems bad.
I agree with that. And I wonder how much differently this would have turned out if Tim Burton was the type of person who was willing to collaborate with the writer, not just hire the writer.
Yeah.
And from everything I understand, they have a good working relationship. But it seemed from the interview like John August likes working with directors that like to collaborate more than something like this.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Bottom line, the main reason why I prefer the 1971 version is Charlie is the main character in 1971, and he's not in 2005.
Yeah, I will just say real quick, in the sort of general experience with this movie category, I saw this movie in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably seen it like 8 or 10 times. Like, I've seen this movie, like sometimes it's on, or sometimes you're just flipping through Netflix and it's like, oh yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'll switch that on.
Which, by the way, I've never seen it until now.
And you had never seen it, which I was shocked that you hadn't seen it, and you were shocked that I had seen it and like apparently had never mentioned it.
Never once.
I don't know.
Never once.
And I had said to you, no, it's pretty good. Like, people don't like it, but like, I don't know. I think it's good.
And I was really excited to see it after reading the book, because everything that I heard is that it's much more loyal, much more faithful to the book.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting it to be good.
Yeah. And I will say, like, here's what it reminded me of. Sometimes we do this thing where, for example, you want to show me a comic book movie or some movie that you really love that maybe you haven't seen in a while, and we're sitting down and something will happen and I look over at you and I can tell that you're seeing it through my eyes for the first time, and you're going, oh, she's going to hate this.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to hate this. This is worse than I remember. This is very problematic. She's not going to like this at all. And feeling bad that you made me watch it.
This is all true.
That was the experience I had watching this. I went into it, I was very excited because I just remembered the parts that I like about it. Like, I like Grandpa Joe, and that's pretty much it. But I like Grandpa Joe. And
also Grandpa Joe.
And Johnny Depp came on screen, and I looked over at you and I was like, oh shit. It's like when someone comes over to your house and your house is dirty and you don't notice it until you're seeing it through the eyes of your guest. That's basically what happened. I just looked over at you and I was like, oh my God, this movie's not good. It's not good. I felt bad.
Yep.
That's what happened.
Mm-hmm. So that's all I have to say about William Wonka. So we only have a few more things to go through, and we're going to do these a little more rapid fire.
Yeah.
So there's The Chocolate Factory and The Oompa Loompas.
1971, it's amazing. It's a paradise. It's everything you dreamed it could be. It's got inventing rooms and an enormous room made out of everything edible with a chocolate river, and the Oompa Loompas are fine.
They're problematic in their own way.
I like the factory better in the 1971 version.
In the 2005 one, the Oompa Loompas, they make the choice to remove them from reality even more. All of the Oompa Loompas are played by one actor named Deep Roy. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. And it's okay. It's weird watching it. My problem is Deep Roy doesn't emote at all.
No, but I think that's what he's playing. Like, I think that's the joke.
I kind of don't like that, especially because the Oompa Loompas in the book are so happy.
He does a lot of work. Like, you can definitely see the work that he put into doing all of these characters.
I would love to know how many hours he shot for.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for him after this.
Deep Roy, if people aren't aware, Deep Roy is a little person. And he is, I believe, Indian. I think he's from the country of India.
Yeah. Like, one of the Oompa Loompa songs in this version was like a Bollywood type number.
Yeah.
And that came from him suggesting it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But he doesn't actually do any of the voices.
Nope.
Yeah.
No. For that, we're going to get to the music in a minute.
Yeah.
But I like the Oompa Loompas in the original one.
I do too. They're much more removed from reality.
You know why I like them?
Yeah.
Because they act like employees.
Yeah.
That's it. They act like employees. It does not look like they are forced to be there. Again, my favorite moment is when Willy Wonka says, no, I'm not going to hold you responsible. Yeah. And the Oompa Loompas' reaction is just, okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I like them in that. They just feel like real employees.
Yeah.
And they happen to really like chocolate, and they hate shitty kids.
I will say one thing for the 2005 version's favor is that like Deep Roy feels much more like a valued contributor and member of the cast to me just watching the movie.
Yes.
The Oompa Loompas in the 1971 version, they're all played by little people, people of short stature, and they feel more like set decoration than characters.
That's actually really fair.
In the way that a lot of movies treat people of short stature. And I think it doesn't hold up. I think it holds up the worst of almost anything in that movie.
You're right.
Yeah.
Are we giving it to 2005?
I think we might have to.
It is. I think it's a better idea, poorly done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
like that.
Yeah.
1971 is a bad idea done well.
Yeah.
And 2005 is a good idea done poorly.
There it is.
So we're gonna give it to 2005.
All right. In at the last minute.
But that
under the wire.
That leads us directly into the music. How would you characterize all of the songs from 1971?
Well, it's funny because in 1971, it's a bunch of actors basically doing the same song with different words over and over again. And in 2005, it's the same actor doing different songs, very different songs.
And you're just talking about the Oompa Loompa songs.
I'm just talking about the Oompa Loompa songs. I wasn't even talking about Cheer Up Charlie or any of that.
Yeah, I'm talking about all of them.
Well, because the 2005 version isn't a musical. Like,
No.
I think that's worth mentioning.
Yeah. But the 1971 version is.
Yeah.
And how does it stand up as a musical?
It's pretty good.
Really well.
Yeah, it's good.
Great songs.
Yeah, except for Cheer Up Charlie.
Cheer Up Charlie's a good song.
I don't like that song.
She's so sweet. She loves him so much.
I
Pure
like I've Got a
Imagination-
Golden Ticket.
Golden Ticket's amazing. Pure Imagination is amazing. I Want It Now is really good.
It's good. Candyman's pretty good.
Candyman's a really good song. Sammy Davis Jr., that was a hit for him.
Yeah, there it is.
These are good songs.
Yeah.
And this is my big problem with the music in the 2005 one, and this kills me because I fucking love Danny Elfman. I love him so much as a musician, especially as a singer. Oingo Boingo is one of my favorite bands and has been for decades. I couldn't understand what they were saying. That's literally what it comes down to.
Yeah.
There were too many voices at once, and the mixing was poor. I literally could not understand them.
Which is funny because it's so produced. It's like not one person just singing.
Yeah.
That there's really no excuse for you not being able to understand what Danny Elfman is singing.
It's such a bummer.
And the 1971 version, the words come up on the screen. So even if you don't understand them, you can see the words.
Yep.
Not so in the 2005.
Let's talk about the fate of the children.
Real quick.
We'll characterize it this way. It's 1971, clearly.
Yeah.
That's clearly where we're coming down.
Yeah. Talk about Veruca Salt in the 2005 version. I think that's a really good example that stands for all of it.
This goes back to what we were saying about Mike TV and how much of a little psychopath he is.
Yeah.
I don't think Tim Burton has a clear enough idea of how to distinguish fantasy and reality.
Yeah.
He likes being dark, but I don't think he understands that when that can be bad.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So in the book, Veruca Salt dies because... Sorry. Veruca Salt leaves the story because there's all these squirrels and they're emptying nuts and they tap on a nut. It's either a good nut or a bad nut. They tap on her head and they're like, she's a good nut. So they push her down the garbage chute and then her dad goes soon after. In the 1971 version, it's the geese who lay the golden eggs.
Yeah, et cetera, et
She's
cetera.
a bad egg.
Yeah.
She goes down the garbage chute. It's a great scene. She's really, really good. In the 2005 version, just like in the book, the squirrels hold her down, they pull her towards the garbage chute, and they throw her in, all while her father is watching. This is the most disturbing scene in the entire movie.
Yeah.
It is so intensely slow and realistic.
And she's screaming for help.
And
her nails scrape on the floor. It's Saw.
I turned to you and I said, I just watched a parent watch their child die.
Yeah.
It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to watch.
Yeah.
And there was nothing rewarding about the way it made me feel.
Yeah.
It's intensely awful. I take Tim Burton solely to task for that.
It was like torture porn, but it was a child.
And that's not what Roald Dahl does.
No.
Because I'm sure he would say, well, I did exactly what's in the book.
No.
And that's why I'm sure he would say that.
The tone was not right.
Tone is what everything is about, and this did not match the tone of Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
So 1971, 100%. That leads us to the ending. I think 1971 gets this for a reason that we just said. We've already talked about how in the 2005 version, there's this whole backstory for Willy Wonka and how it leads him to say to Charlie, you get the factory, but your family can't come. And there's this whole thing in the third act where Charlie doesn't get the factory, and then Willy Wonka decides to give it to him because he reconciles with his father and he understands families are important.
And then they're all living together in the chocolate factory, like in their house in the chocolate factory, which is weird.
I actually thought that was kind of cute.
No.
But from a character perspective,
Yeah.
the ending is bullshit.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And the 1971 version ends with this line.
But Charlie, don't forget what happened to the man who suddenly got everything he always wanted.
What happened?
He lived happily ever after.
It's a great line.
And they hug, and it's great.
It's really sweet.
It's just great. They're flying over the city in the great glass elevator. They can see the chocolate factory and their house, and and Grandpa Joe's there, and it just ends. Just happy ending. Just a really straightforward happy ending.
And it's very sincere, and I bet that's why Roald Dahl didn't like it.
Yeah, I'm that's probably true. That's probably true. But here's the deal. Roald Dahl didn't like a lot of things that are great, like Jews. So I am not really willing to respect what Roald Dahl liked and didn't like at this point.
Fucking A, sweetie.
That's right.
So we only have one more thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Before we assign our quadrants here.
Yes.
So we mentioned at the beginning,
Oh, God.
there's 3 versions of this movie we're going to talk
And
about.
we've only talked about 2. I don't understand. We're like 2 minutes from the end of the podcast. How is this even possible?
So there's a movie entitled Tom and Jerry, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, boy.
Now, for those of you that have listened to our Murder on the Orient Express episode, we did a thing where there was apparently a really shitty version of it made. So I watched it, you didn't, and I reported back to
And
you.
it was funny.
Yeah.
The
Funny for us.
The bit we did was funny.
It was a good bit. And so we thought we would do the same thing for this.
Yeah.
I'm going to link to the trailer. I feel like about 6 months ago, the trailer went around like crazy.
Oh, you also
went
posted a
viral.
picture of me online watching my
Yes.
4-shot reaction watching the trailer.
I said that you were horrified watching it. This was about the trailer for Tom and Jerry, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
That's correct.
So our plan was that I would watch it and I would report back to you. The other day, I started watching it. I think I got 20 minutes in, and I called you in. And what did I say?
You said, you have to watch this. I can't talk about and describe this to you because it won't be funny.
And therefore, we can't even talk to you about it and make it funny. I will.
There's no way.
It is just a couple bullet points.
Bug, fuck, nuts.
It is so bad. It clearly made for $37.
Last year,
You
not
were-
in
you were
1990.
shocked.
Yeah, I thought it was from the 90s. I thought it was like from our childhood. It was from last year.
Yep. I will say one good thing about it. It's got some fantastic voice actors. A guy named Jess Harnell plays Grandpa Joe and the Candyman. The funny thing is, he's the voice of Wacko in the Animaniacs, and his Candyman voice is basically just
There
Wacko
it is.
from the Animaniacs, and he does a really good Grandpa Joe.
Okay.
That's the only good thing I can say about it. The animation's terrible, the music is terrible, none of the actors sing in time with the original songs. It's also a frame-for-frame remake of the 1971 version.
Yeah, I want to be clear. It's not like a new version. What they did was they took the 1971 movie, the actors and their costumes and the sets, and animated them, and then inserted Tom and Jerry, the cartoon mouse and cat. That is what they did.
Yep. I would recommend that anybody watch this.
I mean, watch the trailer.
Watch the movie.
No, don't. Don't watch the movie.
It is insane. There's so much weird contortion of writing.
Yeah.
Trying to shoehorn in the plot that they're trying to create. They make Slugworth the bad guy, but the whole time, like
He gets his own song.
While the movie is happening, while the plot proper is happening, there's a subplot with Tom and Jerry fighting Slugworth through the chocolate factory.
It's not good.
But it still turns out that he's a good guy at the end, which doesn't make any sense.
It's not good. It's not good. We can't describe it. Like, that's it. Like, there's nothing else we can say.
I wish this was funnier. I feel bad that this isn't the great bit it could have been. So that brings us very near to the end.
Yes.
We gotta put some movies on some quadrants here.
All right, let's
start with the most recent and work our way backwards.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Let's start with Tom and Jerry, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Do you think the people that made this care about the source material being the book?
Heck no.
No, they did not. Did they make anything good?
No.
Nope. Okay, so this is a lower left movie right here.
Furthest bottom.
Ugh, it's so far to the bottom corner.
The furthest we've ever seen.
2005.
Yes.
Do you think they cared about the source material?
We know the screenwriter did.
We know Tim Burton did.
Yeah.
No, what they made has nothing to do with this first part.
Yeah.
Did they care about it?
I mean, it
A clear and emphatic yes is the
Yes.
answer you're looking for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tim Burton loves this book.
Okay.
I don't question that for a minute.
I do.
I question his ability to make a good movie
I question
in this particular case.
I question his judgment as to the parts that he found important. Let's just put it that way.
I still think he loved it.
That's fine.
And I don't doubt that. And I don't doubt that John August loved it, the screenwriter. Did he make a good movie in this particular case?
No.
No, it's not good. And we've said this before. I'd rather have a good movie made by people who don't care about the source material than a bad movie made by people who do.
We've said it many times.
So this is a 3. This is third down the list. This is third place.
Yeah.
Fourth is the bottom.
Yeah.
So this is a 3. That's no good. And Tim Burton is someone who I like some of his movies a lot. I used to love Tim Burton, and now I just feel like I could have a longer conversation about his ability to tell a story really well.
Yeah.
That brings us to 1971.
Yeah.
Do you think they cared about the source material?
Ironically, I'm not sure, because my understanding about the way that this movie was made was that the director's little girl loved the book and came to him and said, "You should make a movie of this book." And he went, "All right." And they went to the Quaker Oat Company and said, "Can we make a movie to plug your new chocolate bar?"
And they said yes.
And they said, "Yeah, go for it." So I would not, that story being true, I would not call that they had a great passion for this book.
And so you're also lumping in Roald Dahl, the original author, as he's the screenwriter on this movie.
Yeah, but like,
I don't even think he cared as much
I'm
about
not
it.
sure he cared that much about making it into a movie. I think they probably said, "Here's a fat check. Go for it."
But here's the question.
Yeah,
Did they make something good?
they did.
Very good.
100%.
This is a lower right movie.
Yep.
This is a 2 out of this is second place.
Yep.
Only one above that. Very, very good.
Yes.
So we've got a very, very good movie. Then in 2005 we have one that is
Very bad.
We believe not good.
Not good.
And then there is in 2017, I would actually recommend that people watch Tom and Jerry before they watch the 2005 version. I think it's more fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
I think it bears the most similarity to the best version
It's
of it.
also shorter.
Oh, it's very short.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2005 version is almost 2 hours long.
It's very long.
They add so much stuff and they make it 2 hours long.
And they took
It
out the
doesn't-
songs.
Thus concludes this episode of Adapter Parish. You can find us on the web at adapterparishcast.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at AdaptCast. You can also join our group on Facebook. We have a private group for Adapter Parish fans. You can also join our group on Goodreads, and you can find and follow me on Letterboxd. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adaptorparishcast@gmail.com. If you would like to support this show, there are 2 great ways you can do it. First, tell a friend. We think everyone deserves to hear about wonderful podcasts, or even, mediocre ones, like this one. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would always be greatly appreciated.
Hey, babe. Do you know what happened to the man who got everything he ever wanted?
No.
He lived happily ever after. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.